All right. Hey, we are moving on with our little exploratory time into plants here, and just going over some real basic parts of plants. Some of these you will be very familiar with, others might be new to you. All right. And with parts of the plant, we're going to start with the three, it should be very obvious and basic ones, but we're going to dive a little bit deeper into what's actually going on with those three. Those three are roots, stems, and leaves. So, roots, their primary function is wateral and mineral absorption. Okay, so they're going to absorb water for the plant. That is the vast majority of what it does. It's also going to pick up things like nitrogen and some phosphorus and some of those things out of the soil that we know from talking about the nitrogen cycle. Um, the other major role that they have is they anchor the plant, especially some of those bigger plants, like thinking about trees, in order for them to not just tip over with all their weight, etc., is they have to have a pretty impressive anchor down there. They say that some of those trees, um, that tap roots can go down about two-thirds of their height. So if you have a 100-foot tall tree, that roots are going down at least 60 feet deep in order to keep that thing stabilized. And then water is going to move up from the leaves by transpiration. And we might get a chance to talk about this a little bit. Water is sticky, and so it likes to follow itself and kind of that capillary action. So as leaves get rid of water vapor, that is automatically going to pull water from the ground and other things. Um, Kind of a little bit of osmosis there that we'll get into there because it's not like plants have hearts that are pumping water around kind of thing. So they're the roots. The stems are next as we move our way up. The stems are really simple. Essentially, they're just acting as the go-between between the leaves and the roots. All right. They're there for support, they're there for transportation, etc. But they don't have a major role on their own, so to speak, there. And there's two types of stems, herbaceous and woody. Always think of woody as that's going to be a brown stem, like bark. Okay, that's the most obvious example. And then herbaceous stems would be green stems, like you'd have on most of your plants and other things there. One thing to note inside the stems, when we talk about their transportation system, there's two main parts to that. All right, we have xylem that's going to be transporting water, and then phloem that's going to be transporting food and nutrients. Okay, foods used very. I use a loose definition of that word because obviously plants don't, eat, but sugars and different things are transported through phloem there. Always remember that. X and W are very close together on the alphabet. So xylem and water, and then phloem and food kind of have that same sound at the start of their words there. So that's how I've always kept those two things straight. You can see this. Maybe take celery, which is a plant. And it still has cells in there that are still um, working. Celery will move liquids through the xylem, and you can actually see that if you put celery in food coloring, it'll transport that water up through the xylem as they're going there. So fun experiment at home if you get bored sometime.